held our feelings for a long time, even when we were small, because we didn't have anyone helping us to go through some of the things we went through when we were small. We weren't even with our parents back then. I lost your picture, so what does that mean?
You're good, Liz. You're good.
Okay, so the thing I'm going to share, I'll go through it and I'll tell a little bit of stories of some of the things that we went through with the grief process, how to help children work through their grief, because even children go through a lot of feelings that um, like when we have a loss, or when they've lost a toy, or they've lost a best friend, they go through feelings also, and we need to help them process through those healings. And if you watch, and if you learn how to, if we learn how to help our children to grieve properly, if we watch the children when they're going through a hard time, they'll cry and cry and cry. And if we hold them and talk to them, next minute they're laughing, they're playing. It's like that beauty of not getting stuck in their little feelings and being stuck with it. It's natural for them to cry, let it out, and then play and be with their friends. That's the beauty of how to watch and work with our children relating to grief process. Um, One of the beautiful things I'm watching today, like over the news and everything that's going on with the coronavirus and everything that's happening, you know, the marches and everything, what I'm watching is the parents that are home with their children. They're talking to them. They're letting them process and even watch some of the things that are happening on TV relating to the coronavirus and the marches and everything that's going on in the world. They're including the children to watch some of those things that are happening, and then they're allowing them to talk about their feelings relating to what's happening. That's the beauty of what's happening today. You know, that's what we need to do as parents, uncles and aunts and family members, is to find a way to help our children be in touch with their own feelings. When we work with children, we have 4 basic feelings that we work with: sad, glad, mad, and scared. Those are the 4 feelings that um, we help our children work through, and the children are honest. If we're communicating with them, if we're talking to them, and if we're teaching them, they're really honest with the way they feel, and they're just natural in process. If we help them to process with some of the feelings that they're going through, next minute you'll watch them, they'll play, and like, you know, there's nothing wrong with them. That's the beauty of being able to work with our children, even in time of grief, even in time of loss, even in time of things that are going on in this world. When I watch TV and watch the families and the children, you know, the parents are helping their children to watch a program in the TV, and then they talk about it. And they have the children talk about their feelings relating to that uh, thing that's happening in the TV. That I hope that that keeps continuous, even we're done with the coronavirus and the things that are happening in the world, that they continue that interaction and communication with their children. You know, that's what I appreciate, parents that are doing that, because we need to work with even with our children, because they have their own process in grief when we have a loss, or when they've gotten into trouble in school, or whatever goes on. Children have feelings too. The first thing about grief for us adults, it's shock. Um, it's sort of like a numbness that we go through. We can't feel, we can't talk, we can't do anything at the moment. Even children go through that. Um, so there's numbness. And if you listen to your children and they feel like crying, "Mom, I have a stomach ache," there's a reason for that. There's a pain that the child is going through, but they refer it like a stomach ache. We need to listen to them and tell them, "Talk about your stomach ache. What's going on?" And when we do that and we listen to them and we pay attention to them, they have a natural thing. They'll just cry it out. They'll cry it out, and and after they cry, they're done. They're playing, they're laughing. Beautiful way of the children, how they process when we're in tune with them. They have a natural way to go ahead and cry it out and talk it out, and then they're done with it. So that's what we need to do with our children too. The next feeling is, it's not true, it didn't happen. My dad will come back. They talk like that. They're just sleeping. But we need to be honest with our children, even those periods. Um, let them know that, no, your dad won't come back. And sometimes we have to let them know that they died, so they'll be familiar with those kinds of words and not be confused that they're just sleeping. They'll come back, they'll wake up. What we were taught is we have to be truthful to children and talk to them, so that we won't be the ones to confuse them with their feelings. We have to help them process through some of the feelings that they go through. If we don't pay attention and we don't help children to process through their own feelings, it's going to be confusing later on. It's going to be like, um, if anybody hasn't allowed you to process through your grief and loss, we hold it in. It's like it becomes hard within us. I know that some of us, when we were smaller, we were taken away from our parents, and the only thing we could do, because nobody listened to what we were going through, we miss our parents. We wanted to be with our brothers and sisters. We wanted to be with our grandparents, and nobody ever had us talk over what was going on. So the only time we dealt with that kind of thing, the hardship we go through, is to cry it out in, hiding and crying it out when we're going to bed. These are the things that we don't want our children to go through. We need to hear them. We need to hear them in their own way, to talk about what's going on with you, what's happening with you. Um, what do you feel? Do you feel sad? Do you feel mad? Do you feel scared? And have them talk out these feelings and hear them out, and let them know, I'm glad you can talk about it. I'm glad you can talk about your sadness or your, stomach ache. That's your real pain that the child is going through, and we need to help them process that, and in their own way, let it go. When they let it go, they can play out, they can be with friends. It's like nothing ever happened. because we're helping them to process through with some of the things that children go through. And these are some of the things that we were taught as adults because we didn't know how to work with children. So just like adults have the grieving cycle and the process to go through it with help and, you know, support and everything, children also need our support as parents or as uncles and aunts to help them process through some of their little losses. Maybe one of their friends left um, their community and the child misses them, you know, and you know, they feel for the friend because they don't see him. One of my family members has a grandson, and there was a child that burned in a house fire, and that child was the best friend to that um, child. And when they went to see the place where the other child had burned in the home, the child, the grandson, started crying, uncontrollably crying, and the grandmother said, "Quit crying. You don't have to cry." And the poor boy, the young boy, was 6 years old, and he just hollered at his grandmother, "That was my friend. Now I won't see him in school. I won't have a friend in school." And that kind of awakened the grandmother, and try to hold the child, but the child was already turned off with that. So we have to be really careful in talking to children and hearing them out. Even when they cry, they need to be held. They just need to be held and consoled. And then afterwards, later on, have the child talk about what they went through when they went to see us. When they went to see, like that child brought back the other grandmother, found out what had happened, and she started talking to the grandson and said, "What happened when you went to see the house fire?" "I was crying and grandmother told me not to cry." And she heard the story of the child and said, "Okay, I'm glad you cried it out. I'm glad you're crying. How does that make you feel?" "Really sad, really hurt. I even have stomach ache when I think of my friend." So the other grandmother was able to console the child, have them talk about what they were going through. And then after that, the child played with his brothers and sisters. And every now and then, the other grandmother that was consoling and working with him um, asked the young boy, "What can you do um, because your friend has died in a fire? What can you do?" And that the young boy thought for a while, and the grandmother said, "What can you do to remember your friend?" And the boy said, "I can write a letter." And the grandmother said, "Good, good, you do that." And then she had him write a letter to that other little friend that he lost. And the grandmother still has that letter, in her put it away. But it was so touching to her, the honesty that children have when we work with them, when we talk to them, when we hear them out. All people, all of us, even children, need to be heard, and they need to be, they need to tell their story too. And sometimes we forget to do that with our children. If we have had a family member pass away at home, sometimes, unfortunately, we forget that there's children in the home, and they're feeling all the rest of the people around them with heavy feelings, but we forget to talk to them and hear them out. So that's what we need to do as parents, as uncles and aunts. We need to keep contact with the child and what they're going through so that they'll be able to deal with their own feelings because we've heard and have them tell their story. So my appa knew that, it's time to hear the stories of our people. He meant that even for children, that we need to hear the stories of our children, see where they're at, check them out, hear their feelings. And so that's a good way to do is to listen to children. Um, so when you have when they have their friends at home, in your home, listen to them once in a while, hear them what they're talking about. And if one of them said, I'm sad, you know um, teach your child to ask the one that's sad, what are you sad about? As long as we people hear their stories and with feelings, even children, that's part of what Appa meant by that we need to help our people, even our children, to heal through some of the things that we go through. The next one is, you know, adults, when we hear of a loss, first hear of a loss, we can't believe it. Even sometimes kids go through that in their own way. It's not true, it didn't happen. I just played with them yesterday, and then if they get scolding or discouraged about having to deal with that at the moment they're talking, that's a turn off for our child for what they're going through, because they started to share their little pain relating to a loss. So when we hear a child talk that way, um, listen to them. Put away what you're doing and just listen. Okay, what's going on with you? Hear them out. Listen to them, and they'll, in their own way, they will tell you the truth. They will tell you a story in their own way when you listen to them. That kind of communication and interaction builds relationship with your child. You become closer to your child. You're communicating with your child, and that's the best way to be a parent or grandmother or uncle or aunt in relationship to children. So that's one way that our elders are telling us, pay attention to children, instruct them, guide them, watch them. If they misbehave, there's something going on sometimes within the child. Take the time to listen to what's going on with your child. Um, they just need to talk it out in their own way. And then thank them for sharing. When we went through this training, um, as adults, because we really didn't know how to interact with our children when they act out or when they're crying. And then you know, some of them, they're going through it so much that they'll revert back to wetting their beds or having nightmares at night. You know, that's a sign that we need to pay closer attention. There's something going on with that child, and I need to know what's going on. And when we pay attention and listen and talk to them and have them tell their little story, it's helping them to, you know, um, help themselves. There's a reason why some kids, even they're 3, 4 years old, if we never listen to them and hear them out, maybe the child will start wetting their beds. That's like letting go in an inappropriate way when they know that, you know, um, when they don't have help, they act out in a different way. So those are some of the things we had to pay attention to our instructors when they're telling us to help our children go through their own grief and loss, because they do go through that. And sometimes our children, if we pay attention and if we hear them out and we talk to them and we listen to them, they can be our best teachers of how to work through our own grief. When when we listen to children, they are natural, they tell the truth, they talk about it in their own way, and then we have to thank them for doing that, because that child can teach you how to deal with your own issues. They're so they're so um, honest. They're truthful in what they're saying if we listen and pay attention to them. The other part is deep sadness, and this relates to teenagers too, like depression. Deep sadness. They don't want to do anything. They act out at home or, someplace. There's hurt and pain that they're going through. Sometimes they'll hide themselves in the bedroom and never associate with other kids or children. We have to find out what's going on with that young person or that child. They're hurting and they need to get it out to help themselves. Just like even as adults, when we go through hardship and depression, sometimes we need outside help uh, from people that understand. When I talked about the adult grief and healing, I talked about the grandmother uh, that that uh, um, was in deep depression, and a 3-year-old. Um, she told the story. 3-year-old helped her to get her out of depression. So we need to pay attention to children. If they start spending a lot of time in their rooms, sometimes we need to find out what's going on. Maybe something happened that is troubling them, and we need to sometimes, even as parents, we need to help to intervene in that, so that 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 um, isolation or them getting away from us, even in our own homes, we need to try help them to work through what's really going on with them. And sometimes that's hard to do. If we don't know how to do that, sometimes we just leave them alone. They're just teenagers, or they're just, they're doing their own thing. But sometimes we need to pay attention and um, go in and ask, is there something wrong? Sometimes the first answer will be nothing, there's nothing wrong. But then even at that answer will tell you something, that there is something wrong. Maybe we've gone through that ourselves before, maybe sometime when we were hurting and in pain, we isolated ourselves. Even children and young people do that. So we need, talking about teenagers today, a lot of them are gifted young people. A lot of them have the gift from the Creator to be healers or leaders or, people in charge. But without guidance and helping them to work through their emotions and pains, you know, um, it's almost like a turn off for that young person, because they have no way to let go of what's really going on within them. So we have to pay attention to those kinds of behaviors and, check them out. Even the first time when they tell you there's nothing wrong, even just the way they answer, you know that there's something going on with that young person. Do it again, or invite one or two of the person's friends and have them come over and spend time with that young person, and then later on start you know talking to them, instructing them, or even sometimes even tell your own story of what happened to you when you were depressed. In their Try to do it in their own in their own way. When I lost my mom, I hurt so bad I couldn't sleep at night. Talk to them and and try to help them. Or if you can't help them, have somebody that will be able to talk to that young person. Invite them to your home. I always be glad. We have a young man from a home that was working with young people and teenagers in our home, getting them together and talking with them and telling stories, and sometimes would get into feelings or other things that the young people need to hear to help themselves. So if you have a friend or someone that's able to talk to young people, introduce that person to um, your child, or especially teenagers, someone that can relate to young people. If we do that, if we do that, uh, and we get that outside help, sometimes that will help our child to come back and talk to us. So any way we can help a young person or a child to be able to tell their stories and feelings relating to what they're going through, we need to reach out sometimes even outside our home to talk, to get help to deal with a situation that we see and uh, see, see it as something that needs attention. So um, um, have have our young people help our young people to be able to share their feelings also. Talk to them, even tell your story. If something happened to you and how you felt and how you dealt with it, maybe that will be helpful to your teenager or young person, the children. you know um, as adults, we need to, one thing that we need to do is pay attention to our own children, watch them, how they act or behave. And if we see something that doesn't seem right, we need to find out um, how our child is feeling, what's going on with them, how come they're acting out. And sometimes um, when we do that and we start to interact with their own children, we'll find out things that maybe something hurtful has happened to our child, but they were scared to tell us because we never communicate with them, or we never, um, you know, try to help them relate to their feelings. So that's very important that our instructors told us, pay attention, sometimes watch your children, find out what's going on with them. Sometimes invite their friends to be part of your home and treat the children and just listen to what they're talking about, or the stories they're telling. You will find you will hear something that you might need to find out more about later on, because it's told in that circle. If you just listen and be part of the team with the young people, that's something that we learned how to do as part of our training, is to learn how to spend time with a group of young people. Invite them to your home, or if you're invited to a community, pay attention to what the children are saying or talking about. You know, you don't have to say anything. You can find out a lot of things by what the young people are talking about, what they're saying. And sometimes it might be some concerning thing that they might talk about. So those are things that are helpful in paying attention to our own children and the young people around us. The other thing is sad, I talked about earlier. When a child is feeling sad, sometimes they'll complain about stomachache. I have stomachache. And then we say, okay, do you need to go bathroom? No, I have stomachache. Okay, are you sad? Spell out the words to them. Are you mad? Are you sad? Are you unhappy? Is something hurting? And they'll respond. If they're hurting, they'll respond. They'll answer with yes. So we need to pay attention to what our children are saying, because we're there to listen to them. We're paying attention to them. One of the things that's sometimes troublesome, and I went through that, if my child is trying to get my attention and I'm busy pushing them aside, I'm busy, come back, go play. That's something that our elders told us never to do that to our own children. Put the stuff away, what you're busy with, put it aside and pay attention to them, because they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you maybe they're in pain, they're hurting, they're sad, they're unhappy. So pay attention to that. Even we have lots of things to do, pay attention. Because if we don't pay attention even to the feelings of our children, they'll turn to somebody. They'll turn to somebody else. Maybe who they're turning to will do more harm than help them. So as parents or uncles and aunts, we need to pay attention when a child is trying to get our attention, because there's something going on with them and they need our help at that time. So always pay attention to children, watch them, how they interact with other children. Watch that too. So the next part is blame. If something happened, maybe the child will blame themselves, or they will blame other people. Just like adults, when something bad happens to us, we blame other people. Same thing with children. When they're hurting and in pain, sometimes the child will blame themselves. Maybe I caused that. But if they don't talk about it and straighten it out and check it out with their parents or someone they can talk to, it gets more confusing. We don't want those things, feelings that we go through, or even children go through, interfere with a healthy life. Even a child, we need to hear them out. We need to check what's going on with them. We need to pay attention to them. We need to watch them. We need to instruct them. Those are the instructions of our elders relating to children. Remember that, put aside the grief process for a while. At one of the presentations I did, Oh, the Love of Children, we need to watch our children. We need to pay attention to our children. We need to talk to our children. We need to instruct our children. We need to mentor our children. Those are the things that we're supposed to be involved, the way we're supposed to be involved with our children. Pay attention, watch them, instruct them, guide them, nurture them. Because remember, our children are our future leaders. Our children are going to be our traditional healers. Our children are going to be helpers in the future to correct things that are happening in today's world. They're going to be there. They're going to be our leaders. They're going to be our healers. One of the beautiful things that my auntie, one of my aunties is saying that we have 3 young girls in our family. And sometimes when I'm home, I help my auntie instruct those girls. They have gifts, traditional ways of helping other people. And we nurture them and we instruct them and we guide them to build up that, because they're going to help lots of people. You know, so because it's passed down from my grandmother onto them. So that's what's been missing for a long time from the time the child is growing up, that we never guide them through their own little grief process, or to nurture them, or to guide them, and and letting them know it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It's gonna help you to feel better, and they know that. If they've gotten into trouble and they cry and cry and cry, afterwards they're done, and there was nothing that happened to them, because we're guiding and watching and nurturing them. That's something that's very important by our elders, to instruct, guide, nurture, watch them, and if we notice that the child has a gift, be there to guide them, talk to them, help them to build up their gift, because it's a gift from the Creator to help other people. So helping out, if we notice that the child is gifted, work with them, talk to them, instruct them, and have them tell them to always thank the Creator for their gift, because that gift is from the Creator to help other people. So children, we need to pay attention even to those feelings that they're going through. They might be confused sometimes, even with their own gifts. We need to hear them out and clear that out with them too, so that they will be okay with the gift that they have. They won't be confused. The next part is scared. Sometimes children are scared, and sometimes they don't know what they're scared of. They're afraid to go to bed, maybe. They're afraid to go to sleep because they've uh, watched a person in their home that has died. And so we need to pay attention to children like that too, and help them out. But let them know that, yeah, someday we'll see your dad. So um, if they're afraid of, sometimes the child, they won't let us turn off the light. That would be for a period, but if we just talk to them and instruct them, it's going to be okay. Um, I'm glad you're talking about being scared, but that won't last either. Turning off the light, you know, someday they'll be able to do that themselves. because we're letting them know it's okay to be scared, but it doesn't have to be stuck within. Talk to them and instruct them and guide them, you know. It'll be okay. I'm glad you're sharing you're scared. And maybe you have a story when you were young that you were scared of something and how you dealt with that. So little stories that fit children or young people, be able to tell that story, because even children listen when you tell stories. And then the next part is help. Sometimes young people ask for help. They find the help, but a lot of times they still like to isolate themselves because maybe they're scared of what's going on with them, you know. So we need to just pay attention, watch them, be there when they need their help. You know, let them know, if you're ready, if you want to talk to me, I'm here. Let them know that, you know, because children need other people too. They need their parents, they need their dad, or they need their mom, they need a big sister, maybe big brother. Let them know, you know, and whatever they're sharing, maybe they're scared. I'm glad you shared you were scared. I'm glad you shared you were scared. Mad, you know, sometimes children ask, why? Why did my dad die? You know? And so those things, they need answers. We have to be ready to talk to them relating to feelings that they're going through. Talk to them, you know? So be there, or if you can't help them, find somebody that can help you to talk with them. Talk to another adult. How did we deal with this situation? Because sometimes, even as adults, we don't know how to talk to children. If we haven't learned how from another person, or maybe our parents, because we were taken away, and the place where we were taken away, they don't pay attention to our feelings, so we don't know how to relate even to children. Find somebody that knows how to do that. The instructions that we had from our instructors were very helpful for us parents how to relate to our children. So learn how, find out how, and put that to practice in our own homes, so that we'll be connected with our children. They'll be able to come to us when they need help. So that that's something that sometimes when child is talking about what they're going through, sometimes they'll be afraid to talk to other people. You know, be there for them. Even children need adults to talk with, instruct, be their instructors, be their guidance. Um, then there's other people. The child starts to feel better. There's other friends. There's peers in school. Maybe they were able to talk to their teacher aide in school. Maybe they were able to, excuse me, I need my, maybe they're able to talk to their parents, and maybe they're able to tell their peers, this is what happened to me when I was crying and hurting. My mom helped me and told me story. So there's help. They realize that there's help even as a child or a young person. There's help other than my parents. There's teachers' aides, there's school teachers, there's peers, you know, their friends that they can talk to. they can be with when they're going through hardship. Um, always make certain that your child and your children have friends. And no matter how those friends are, invite them to your home. Have them be part of your family sometimes. You'll find out lots of things about that team of friends that your child has. Listen to them. Maybe the elders always taught us, when we invite other people's children or teens, even teens, when you invite them to your home, if you're going to instruct or talk to your daughter, talk to all the rest too. Maybe if we don't instruct the other young people too, maybe they don't have that at home. So always, when we have our child and they bring friends home, if we're going to instruct, talk to our child, it includes the rest of the young people, so that they feel good in coming to your home because there's a support there. Maybe they don't have it at home. Maybe they might find it here at your home. So those are the things that when we were taught by the elders, always include other young people in this talking to your child. Give that to other young people too, and always end that talking. If I don't love you, I wouldn't be talking to you. Even you know, talk to the rest of the teens and the peers of your child. Talk to them. Let them know that um, you're glad that they're in your home. You're glad that you're friends with your child or person that you're taking care of. Instructions, so they feel good coming to your home because you're including them along with talking to your child. Include the other young people. And so those are the kinds of teachings that we got from elders. Always include other young people, not just your own, because sometimes maybe the other one or two other people don't have anyone to discipline or talk to or guide or someone to talk to them. So when we do that, sometimes the one thing that the another couple of other mothers we had when our children became teenagers, and that young men would meet with those young people. Sometimes we'd offer our home for them to be there over the weekend while maybe I'm with the other parent. And we started to do that with the young people, so that they'll hear each other tell their stories. Maybe they'll relate to some of the feelings or hurts and the pain that they have gone through among themselves, and that way they keep in check with themselves. They keep in check with each other. Um, and then when you're involved with the team of young people, you know, you're creating something that'll be sort of like supportive when they grow up, when they're young men and women. Maybe one of the greatest things that happened when with my daughter, with the teens that she was friends with, many of those young people when they grew up, I always had um, um, fish, the game that maybe they went hunting, they brought one or two home for me. And I understood then what the what the what they talk about when we do gifting to elders. They always wish you'll be a better hunter. you'll be a better provider for your family. I understood that with the things that the young people, when they grow up to be young adults and becoming parents themselves, they blessed me with foods that I like to eat, the hunting or the fish or things that they got, um, in when we help young people, even their gratitude comes back later. So when we spend time and hear the stories of the young people and listen to especially their feelings and talk to them and let them know that you're hearing them, in the long run, you're helping yourself and you're helping the young people. When you respect a young person, they in turn respect you too for being there when they need help. So when we learned how to do this, we put it into practice, in our own home, and then also with other young people. When we're there for them, when they need help, they in turn later on will bless you with the help that they got. They will respect you because you respected them. So the teachings of our elders always in that way. When you help somebody, you'll get blessed later on. When you help somebody, somebody's going to help you. Always, even with children, their gratitude will return to you or your grandchildren, to your children or grandchildren. Always with that teaching, the elders tell us. The next part is when they accept themselves and their own stories they have told and they feel better. They feel better. They're in acceptance. I'm okay. I feel better. Um, they can study. They're not isolating themselves. They're more open in their activities wherever they're in school or even at home. They're more open with you and even their peers because they're in acceptance. Um, they have more friends. They can communicate with adults because there's adults listening to them. They can make suggestions. They can help to improve even their schooling. Maybe they get into what they call the school um, leadership program or school council, the team of young people that help to create solutions in their school. So because of that, that's why we need to pay attention to children and young people, even their feelings, is that we want them to feel good about who they are, um, who their families are, um, their peers, their friends. So when they feel good, they want to do something good for other people. So that's the reason why our elders always say, help somebody. In turn, they will give you blessing to you or your family. So even children, when they grow up, if you respected them, they in turn will respect you. The next thing is they learn that because they've been helped to deal with their feelings, they talk about their feelings, they talk about their experiences that were hurtful, and they can talk to you. They start to feel better. They start to feel good. They start to help their peers. Some of them have said, I can think now. I can think clear. I can think of things to do because they're not uh, bogged down with the unhealthy feelings that maybe they kept inside because they hadn't have help to deal with that. They start to feel good. They want to help people. They want to help somebody that's gone through the similar thing that they've gone through because they've been there. That's the reason why we help young people to learn to deal with their feelings, their hurts, and their pains so that they can feel better, they can help themselves, they can help somebody else. All that, always in the intention of getting them better so they can be helpful uh, to other people that are maybe in the similar situation they've been before, and they understand that. The next part is okay. They're able to, we, the one thing early on I talked about the love of children and to teach them and instruct them and even to pray. We teach our young people in their teens to pray, ask the Creator for help. In that way, in that way, they're respectful not only to their parents but also to their Creator because they've been instructed. And then they ask for help when they're feeling sad. They're able to ask the Creator even for help, but they can talk about that with their own families because we've been there to listen to them. And sometimes that's all they need is someone to listen to them, tell their stories. One of the other things that was helpful in the treatment program, when a young person couldn't tell their stories, we had an art class in that treatment program where the young person just can go do artwork. And then after they complete an artwork, we have them come back and tell a story about that artwork that they did and what it meant to them and why they created that artwork the way they did. And in this way, it helped the young person to tell their stories. Anyway, even children, be creative in helping that child to tell their stories, artwork, storytelling, um, you know, helping them in their own way verbalize what's hurting, how come they're in pain, how come they have stomach ache, even that, because I've heard that before. Mom, I have stomach ache. Okay, what's going on? I'm so sad, okay? And then they start to cry and just hold them and just, you know, if even as adults, if you're hurting and in pain and crying, if somebody helped you, that feels good. But children, that's the same way. They like somebody just to hold them and rock them and just be with them through their tears. And then afterwards, after they cry and let it out, they're like, you know, nothing was wrong. They're playful, they're laughing, they're, you know, they're being with their peers. Same thing, the child, be there to guide and watch them. And, you know, if we teach our children to pray from early on, they can be the best interveners, prayer warriors, and their prayers are pure. They're, there's nothing interfering with their prayers, and they can help us to heal through our own issues with their prayers. They can be the best prayer warriors that we can have as children if we teach them the right way to even contact, even be in touch with the Creator. So, and in that way, when we've helped the child to walk through their little grief process, the things that they go through as children, then they know that it's like they become alive. They feel good. They start to feel good. They start to feel good about themselves too, and they start to take part in activities like um, basketball, dancing, um, traditional dance and songs. They're taking part in activities that makes them tired, but they feel good about themselves. Uh, taking part when before they isolated themselves even from those activities, even from school. Their grades have dropped because of the feelings that they go through. But if we guide them and help them and nurture them to walk through even those pains, they start to feel good and they're active now. Their grades start to um, uh, go up even in school. They start to uh, feel comfortable around their peers. They're not isolating themselves, and a lot of times because there's been guidance through their little feelings or there's feelings they go through, they feel like they're part of the family. You know, they can tell you the truth. They can talk to you because you've been there to guide them and hear them out. My Appa Peter Jacob always told us before he died in our instructions, it's time to hear the stories of our people and our children. And that's what he meant, is that if we want our children to listen to us and be part of us in our family, we need to listen to them. We need to guide them. We need to nurture them. We need to let them know that you're not going to always have stomach ache because you're telling your story. And tell them you're so glad that they're able to tell their story to you. You know, in that way, they'll be able to trust even other adults if we pay attention and listen to them with what they're going through. So, and then with that also, they build up friends and supportive people list. Now, when I do presentations in the Yukon Kuskokwim area, when I worked in Wakaitsi, when we worked with young people, we always told the young people before we leave, have a list of people, 5 or more, in your phone with their name and phone number. So if you need help, those are the people, one of the people there you call on. We always encourage, you know, building up support for young people. Always. If they can't do that, I instruct the teachers, please help that child to have a list of names and numbers because they need help right now. They don't have anyone. Because even as adults, when we're going through hardship and hard time, supportive people lift 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 us up, help us out to get out of the situation we're in. Same with the young people. They need that support. All young people need our support because someday they're going to be our future leaders. And when we help to have them feel good and build up a positive image of themselves, you know, they're going to be good leaders for us in the future. They can take care of us. they're not going to abandon us if we know how to guide them and help them out, even with their grief. We nurture them and we watch them, and sometimes even cry with them. You know, they look at you, how come you're crying? You know, because you're crying. And so in that supportive way, they know that you're there with them. You're being with them and you're honoring who they are. So that's and then they're where before in with their grief, if they never talk about how they feel, mad, sad, glad, scared, if they never talk about those, their grades go down. They're having hard time thinking because they're so much in their little grief and hurt and pain that it's hard for them to think of homework or what they need to do at school. When they've had help and talk about what they're going through, their grades go up. They're feeling good. They got into activities. They're with their peers. They're able to talk to you when we do that. So these are the things that we need to help our children be able to be honest with their own feelings, and that when we help our children to do that, they don't feel alone anymore. They don't feel awkward anymore. They don't feel scared of adults anymore because we're hearing them out and talking with them, instructing them, talking, nurturing them. So these are all the things even children and young adults go through. And we need to pay attention. We need to learn how to be there for them. That's something us adults had to learn how to do when we were going through this training, because sometimes we didn't know how to attend to our children because we weren't nurtured through our own pain when we were growing up. So in time of being a helper, we need to help ourselves first, heal through some of our grief and hurts and pains in order to best help our families and our children, and to pass that on to other people. So when we've gone through healings and we've gone through the process with our children, helping our children to go through their own grief, and when we've helped them to reach out to other people for support, we've done our part. So that's the thing about the teaching we got through this, or how to help a child or a young person in time of their own grief and loss. Anything you want to add, Amelia?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Was that it for your presentation? You hear me, Liz?
Yeah, I hear you.
Was that it for your presentation?
Yeah, it's that's all the other things I had.